Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Daily Knight. I am joined by Andrew Johnson, a writer with me on Inside the Knights on Fan Nation, powered by Sports Illustrated. Andrew, thank you for coming on the show today. How you doing today, my friend?
How you doing, Brian? I'm excited to be here. Excited to talk about some UCF football.
We are actually going to endeavor in the sport of football, but more specifically, running back and O-line, the two positions that you and I agree have the most, shall we say, depth coming back for 2022, and some really good frontline players, not just Bowser, but like the offensive line has some really good players, guys that might have a chance to get paid one day. And as anybody that watched UCF this year or knows anything about Gus Malzahn and his offense when he was at Auburn, they run literally through the running game to set up other stuff. Power inside zone is like their main bread and butter. If UCF wants to, quote unquote, take the next step this next year, those two positions have to be the hallmark. And you and I have talked about this off the air a couple of times leading up to this show. There's plenty of depth, but now we got to figure out the alignment of it. How does it work out? And it is complex. It's fun, but it's complex. So why don't you tell everybody kind of like your little snippets that you just gave me a minute ago, like the things that you think that we should talk about today?
Yes, sir. Like we talked about earlier, UCF has a new offensive coordinator, obviously, with Chip Lindsey coming in. He averaged about 99 rushing yards at head coach. Not too exciting, but like we talked about, UCF has a lot of depth at the running back position with Isaiah Bowser coming back, pretty much the bruiser running back and the star of this offense. You got the electric Johnny Richardson. He can catch some screen passes, take some running back draws, 50 yards if he gets one cut. You got Mark Antony, of course. He's another bruiser back. And you got the new guy, Jordan McDonald, coming in out of Milton, out of Georgia. This guy is another running back that can be a three-down back in the future. So UCF has a lot of talent at the running back position coming in from 2022.
I'm going to share my screen here in a little bit and just kind of show some different things statistically and all that. But UCF is a quote unquote, not yet at least, not a Power 5 school, but the way the running back board is set up, it's as Power 5 as it gets. And we'll lead into that with the offensive line as well. It is interesting because the coaching staff uses one running back unless somebody moves to the slot.
Mm-hmm.
How they figure out how to get all these carries is a conundrum, but a good one.
Right.
Obviously, Bowser is the main guy. That's not any newsflash. But Johnny could play slot. RJ Harvey, another guy who's coming off the knee injury. I'm out of all the guys that we will hopefully see this spring, and I have no idea if he's going to play in spring ball. He's in my top 2 or 3 just because if you can find a way to get him the ball in the flat, he makes guys miss. He is fast.
Electric.
Yep. So there's a lot of potential here to diversify the offense. And Coach Lindsey had quarterback play when he was at Troy. That's one of the reasons their yardage was down run. But he'll adjust. And if you got a load of running backs, you use what's at your disposal. So with that being said, I can't imagine them not having, if not the best running game in the AAC next year, if not at least the top 2 or 3. I would, barring just a plethora of injuries again, which I doubt that's going to happen 2 years in a row.
Staying healthy, point of contention. They have to stay healthy. They have to. Bowser can get hurt, and
it's not
the same thing like last year.
Yeah, they can't be giving him 30 to 35 touches again. They got to pull him out. That's my thing. But
no.
I really don't know how you look at it and say, well, they're not going to have good run. They've got plenty, and they still have Demarius Good that could get carries. They got Anthony Williams.
Trillion Coles.
I mean, I expect Coles to leave. I would assume.
I think he should too. Honestly, I think the brother should. He might take his talents elsewhere because he deserves some playing time.
Yeah, I mean, I assume he's getting his degree. He might as well. But again, technically, he's still on the roster. There's a lot of things they could do. And then you also have to take into consideration, depending on how the quarterback situation plays out, if they give a package, for instance, to Thomas Castellanos, let's say he doesn't start. He's a runner first.
Right.
That still carries away from the running back.
Yep.
How do what if they get, for those of you that don't know, Rice Plumlee is a quarterback that played at Ole Miss, started as a freshman. had 210 yards rushing against LSU in 2019. That is the same LSU team that ran roughshod over college football. He had more rushing yards than any SEC running back. He is not your normal athletic quarterback. He is extremely fast.
He's got some wheels. That kid got some wheels on him.
Yes, he does.
But
he
like
was
you
on
said,
campus.
like you said, that'll take away some carries though from this talented running back group. That 4 guys that can tote the rock.
Maybe more. Who knows?
Maybe more.
So how do you do that? And that's why we're doing this podcast. I could do a podcast every day, but this one is about as intriguing as I'm going to have all year. I haven't got the answers, and they're going to have to play out. Even Gus doesn't have all the answers. The kids have to figure it out themselves. But I'm curious to see how they get 2 guys at the same time on the field.
Yep.
Bowser can be in the backfield, sucks everybody in. Mm-hmm. You move Johnny out to the slot. Wow. He's one-on-one. You know, he's a 4-3 guy. I mean, he is electric.
And he can catch the ball.
Oh, yeah. If you make the first guy miss, it's over. Yeah, it's over. So it's over. They have a plethora of opportunities. And again, the quarterback situation, I have no idea how that's going to play out. But I'm excited about it. So with that, I'm going to just for the statistical point, I'm going to share my screen here. It's interesting to me that there are so many talented guys. And like, I mean, Antony-Richards ended up leading the team in rushing yards. And like he averaged 7.05 yards a tote. Yes, I don't care what group you're in. If you score 3 touchdowns as the backup, that's good. But the 7.05 per tote is sickening.
Yeah.
And he had technically 55 fewer rushes than Bowser. And yet he had 30 more yards.
He's a big play guy. That's as simple as that.
You know, he might get 2-2-2, then it's 48. That's when I watched him in high school, it was the same thing. He played at Lake Wales, down in your world, down in there in Polk. And man, when he hits the crease, y'all better be ready to walk off the field.
That's a fact.
Yeah. So, and then you got Mark Antony-Richards, who's kind of the complement of those two. He's a bigger back, but he's got pretty good foot speed too. He broke off a couple of runs this year.
Yes, sir.
And then you add RJ, and then you add Demarius, then you add Anthony. Something's going to happen here. It'll work itself out, but this depth chart is long.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is, beyond, you know, the obvious again, is Bowser and Richardson, do you think there's room to have 4 guys getting carries in quote unquote the majority? Like when you play your top rival or whatever, everybody shortens their list, their bench gets a little shorter. But besides those games, how many guys do you think UCF is going to use in an average game? That is what I'm trying to decipher, and I'm not sure on it myself yet.
And like you said, Brian, earlier, I don't think none of us will know until it actually happens. But going off of last season, they had 3 guys that could tote the rock: Isaiah, Johnny, and Mark. And when they played, we barely seen all 3 of them feature in the game the whole game. So Mark would sometimes he would get less carries, or in one game it would be Johnny and Mark running the show. So it's going to be hard for 4 guys to tote the rock. So I think we'll get a mixture of 3 backs, because you still got Ryan that can come out of the backfield that can tote some carries. You still got Jalen that can get some end-around carries. You're going to have a running quarterback. So it's going to be hard to get 4 guys that can that's going to be able to run the ball the whole season. That's going to be very, very hard for Gus.
What you just said leads me to the following. At some point, guys get banged up. Running back is a very difficult position on the human body. As long as, hypothetically, let's say Bowser sprains an ankle again or something and he misses a couple of games, as long as Gus is comfortable and Chip Lindsey is comfortable with putting Antony-Richards in there to be, you know, the bell cow and get 16, 18 carries, and then maybe Johnny gets 9 to 12 and then get him the ball in the flat. By all means, please do.
Yeah.
As long as you balance it, I think Mark, I mean, in most schools, he'd be the number 2 back. I mean, no,
he could be a number 1 back.
That's what I mean. He could. Mark Antony-Richards could play at Notre Dame, USC, Texas A&M, Alabama, anywhere you wanted. Schools that are putting kids into the NFL. I think that UCF will have the best, quote unquote, non-Power 5 running back room, and it's probably not going to be that close. barring something that I don't know about. I know East Carolina's got a good running back, etc. But the overall depth that UCF has is ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Yes, sir. And like,
And
you made a good point, man, about the slot. Like, I think they can put Johnny, RJ, and maybe Ryan in the slot position and have them take some carries.
if you look at this is just a random depth chart I found online. It only lists a couple of guys, and it puts it in perspective. At some point, you have to cut off. Who gets that? And that's why this is better. At least it lists everybody. It's just CFB stats. It's the site I use all the time for statistics.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot have enough running backs because, like this year showed you, Gus told me at the last press conference before the bowl game, they had lost 27 players to transfer or injury this year.
Wow. That's brutal.
That's over 25% of your roster. That's like 30%. And they still went 9-4. Imagine if Bowser was, for whatever it's worth, I'll just pick him, was able to play in all 12. Now, I don't think they're beating Cincinnati or SMU, but they'd have won the other two. They'd have won 10-2.
Right. They would have got a 10-win season, which is big.
And there's nothing you can do about it. I always tell people that ask me, pick Ohio State's record this year, or Alabama's or whatever. Well, I always answer with, well, who's healthy? And I always get long looks because it's everything. Football is a sport of attrition. I know that's not politically correct, but it just is.
Mm-hmm.
At this position and the one we'll talk about here in just a second, even if Johnny and Isaiah got hurt, God forbid, and missed 2 or 3 games in a row, you would still have RJ. You would still have the opportunity to bring, Mark probably would be the starter.
Yeah.
You got Demarius. You've got Anthony. And then you're going to, like you said, very key point. O'Keefe and Jalen can both fly. They're going to be running. And then there's the 2 kids coming in who I both know personally. Both can play slot or outside. But Xavier Townsend played running back primarily at Berkeley Prep. And he's tough as nails. The depth that they have is ridiculous with the smaller guys like that. And then we got, again, the young man from Milton, Georgia, who's a power back. He's 220. He's a grown man.
Man.
You know what I mean? Like, where are you going to get him carries? He was recruited by SEC schools like Tennessee and South Carolina.
Right.
This is a good problem to have. Coach Harris is living life right now as the running back coach at UCF. I don't know if you can really put it into perspective how important that is moving forward, because if you look at the top, like the national title game Monday, based on the 24/7 composite, all their different rankings, the 2 most talented teams in the country are Alabama and Georgia. Well, guess who's playing in the national title game? Alabama and Georgia. Talent gets you there more than anything else. They often say, well, it's half talent, half coaching. It's about 75-25. I can coach the defensive line at Alabama. Give me Will Anderson on the edge. I'll figure out the other 3. Thank you. It's just not that hard. And Nick Saban knows that. UCF is not in their position defensively in terms of depth. They've got guys at each spot that are in that realm. But running back, it's hilarious. They're way deeper than Alabama is right now, running back. How hilarious is that? Not deeper in Georgia, but then Alabama. It's insane. So football, you can flip the script over years usually, but UCF right now, they're where they need to be. It's hilarious because they're deeper than teams like Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And this is after losing Greg and the beloved Otis. This is, what I'm saying? This is still reloading. So that's a good thing to have. And they're recruiting well. So they're doing good.
I can't imagine that UCF is going to struggle to run the ball, except for a point you made to me prior to coming on the show, and it's vital for any program, not just the Knights. If you are unable to consistently pressure the opposing defense with your quarterback throwing the ball, they suck in, and it's harder. Now, you can still run the ball to a certain degree, open the pass, blah, blah, blah. But there are teams, remember, like, I still don't know all the complexities of what they did, but Tulane was horrific on defense. And they decided just to start throwing the kitchen sink at everybody. They not only stuffed UCF, they stuffed a couple other teams after that, after previously giving up like 200 yards a game. And they just put 8 in the box and said, to heck with it.
8 in the box.
I think that's what teams are going to do to UCF next year, because that's the only team. other than Cincinnati that stuffed UCF. And Cincinnati was a talent thing. Myjay Sanders is not on every squad. With that being stated, UCF isn't going to face Cincinnati's going to take a step back next year. Period.
Right. They'll lose a lot of guys.
Their defense is going to lose like 4 or 5 draft picks.
Yeah.
You're not going to. Cincinnati's not going to recover from that immediately. They might still be good, but it's not going to be the same. Anyway, to make a very clear point here, UCF is going to be able to run over some teams.
Yes.
Flat out. To be really good, though, that quarterback play has to offset the teams that can put 8 in the box, that have some corners that can play on an island.
Well, we've seen it live this season when they start stuffing the box against Mikey Keene and kind of forcing him to throw the ball, and he had made some bad decisions. So they'll definitely have to go in the drawing board on that, because teams are going to stuff the box.
The other thing, and we touched on it briefly, Thomas Castellanos is the running quarterback they're bringing in out of Georgia. That's the way he's labeled. I took the time to go up and watch him play live, and I'd seen him in 7-on-7. Athletically, he was recruited at corner, running back, and receiver, in addition to quarterback. He's a freak. He could have went to Clemson or Georgia or anywhere he wanted if he'd have agreed not to play quarterback. But he was just set on it, so he comes to UCF.
Yeah.
If he can figure out a way to be a part of a package, because he's got a cannon for an arm, that's the extra extension. His upside is just insane.
Do you think he'll battle Mikey for the
absolutely
with that RPO that he can run?
Absolutely.
With all those electric running back. Wow.
John Rice Plumlee, the kid from Ole Miss that was just on campus recently, is a lot like Castellanos. He might be straight ahead faster. Castellanos might be the better overall athlete. It's debatable, and it's a good problem to have. Right. I don't know where Plumlee's going, but I assume that UCF is going to be in the mix there. The bottom line is this. They're going to have some kind of package like that. And don't forget Joey Gatewood. He's another guy that can run. He's a big dude. I still think he should move to tight end, but that's another conversation. The point is still the same. If you can just throw it a little bit from whichever guy it ends up being, all these running backs that are on that screen that you see now have an opportunity to have one less guy in the box. If they're playing against single high safety compared to 2, it's the difference between night and day, because that's an unblocked defender. And it's not fun running at somebody who's got a running start at you while you're dodging guys and he clobbers you. That's what Bowser went against. And that's why his average is only 4.4. If he saw the same packages defensively that everybody else on UCF's roster did, his average would be much higher. But everybody in the stadium knew he was. Yeah. And he would still get 2 to 3 yards. It was crazy. He was money. What he missed, like 1 or 2 times this year? He didn't get a first down on short yard. It was insane. Bruiser. And sometimes, like you said, he's a bruiser. He had to just kind of move the pile. There was nowhere to go.
Yeah.
The other teams, they give out scholarships too. So with that, I want to transition to one other thing, and that's the O-line. You and I talked many times in the booth this year that we thought the best overall group on the team was the offensive line, because Keene didn't know a lot. He had to play the last 9 games plus the bowl against Florida. They had a lot on their plate. And then Bowser missed a lot of those games too. Bowser only technically played in 8 of 13 games. He missed 5. Yeah. And part of those, he didn't even play the full because he missed a lot of the Louisville game and one other game. I can't remember who it was. But when he didn't play, that's a different kind of pass protect, etc. So I believe in giving credit to where credit is due. And UCF, Wokai,
big boys.
Yeah, big boy.
Very experienced. The most experienced position, I believe, on the UCF team.
And the big, for people that don't know, Sam Jackson announced he's coming back for a 6th year. I don't know if he'll play right or left tackle, but he'll start. That's a great group, man. They got the big kid coming in from Jackson State that's a transfer.
Wow.
And they also have Adrian Medway and Ed Collins.
Yep. Looking at it right now. Wow. And Matthew Lee. That kid can play in the NFL.
Yeah. So what can happen here? The chemistry, they're not going to really change the scheme anyway. No. Let's say that Bowser has to miss. He gets the flu and he has to miss 2 games. You got Mark Antony-Richards running behind this still really, really good offensive line.
Really experienced offensive line.
And
really big offensive line too.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Sam's 320 plus.
Yeah.
You have a situation, again, I'm not picking on them, but Cincinnati was head and shoulders above anything else that we saw this year in the AAC defense. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not even
Not even
competitive.
close.
Not even close. They're going to lose both corners. They're going to lose
Starting
quarterback, the DNs, but like the
starting running
defense.
back. Yeah.
I mean, they're losing about 10 NFL guys.
Yeah.
You know, conservatively 7 or 8. Who's going to stop UCF up front? Unless it's UCF stopping itself, meaning we can't throw, so you're just going to put 20 guys up near the line. You know what I mean? I'm being facetious, but
they're losing guys. UCF stacking guys.
That's what I mean. So a couple of schematic things here that I want to talk about. Inside zone is their play.
Yeah.
/ they'll run a few different power / gap kind of things,
Yep.
you know, depending on how you want to label it. I'm curious to see how they extend it when one of the guys that runs a package, or if Castellanos or somebody wins the job.
Yeah.
Outside zone, buck sweep, riding it out. Quarterback fakes the handoff to O'Keefe. You know, the dip cross. That's the stuff that he could do at Auburn. He didn't have enough bodies.
No.
I mean, remember, Jalen got hurt in game 3.
Yeah. Jalen banged up. Isaiah banged up.
Right. They're going to, like Johnny, they're going to run in motion, do that. O'Keefe, Jalen.
Right. RJ.
You'll have guys that rotate. RJ's a great example. You won't have tired legs running that. There was games where O'Keefe, you felt like the Energizer Bunny was going to tilt over. It's like, I mean, if he didn't get the ball, he was still the deep guy to run off the coverage. Those are still calories you're burning. Yeah. They're going to have more plays that are just a quick pass or a hand. It's real simple, but you have a jackrabbit that has the ball now in front of with those big guys in front of them.
Yeah.
That's going to go well.
A lot of those offense wide receiver screens that they ran last season are going to work.
They'll be more in tuned. The guys will be more rested. Now they are going to lose Brandon. He had 11 touchdowns on the year catching the football. They need to replace that. That's.
Will they get Amari back?
Well,
I think. Oh, will they get Nate? Is Nate Craig Myers coming back?
See, I don't know the situation. I'm going to wait. Yeah, even if they say they are now, I want to see if they're here in spring.
Wide receiver might be a thin position.
I think some of the freshmen could end up playing.
If the people don't know about him,
he's from Ocala. He's a freak. Yeah, he's a ball player. But the kid from Georgia is 6'3.5", 6'4", and he's a basketball kid that would dunk on your head. So that could be a kid they could put into the boundary, that boundary spot where Brandon played. Maybe Nate comes back. I don't know. Jordan Johnson didn't do anything this past year. He was disappointing. Right. He transferred in from Notre Dame. He did not do anything. And then there's Amari Johnson, another jackrabbit.
Amari Johnson, another speedy guy. They're gonna need a bigger guy out there.
That's the thing.
Brandon Johnson was a key to the offense last. How many? 9 touchdowns?
11.
11 touchdowns after only having 1 touchdown his whole career at Tennessee. That's
why college football is great, though, man.
That's insane, man. That's great for him, though.
Oh yeah. He'll get a chance to go to some combine, do some combine work, go some tryouts. He might get drafted. Who knows?
Yes, sir.
Last point, and then we could wrap it up here. UCF running game, O-line is good. We know the quarterback situation. I'm really hoping that they get some help for Alec Holler at tight end. If there's a spot that UCF is rail thin, it's there. Now they got a kid coming in. It's a good player, but he's not a big physical. He's more of a flex tight end. They got to get a grad transfer there, and that also helps the running game.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit earlier. It's Alec. They're going to need somebody to complement Alec Holler.
And you can't expect just one guy to be the guy. Or if he gets banged up, because then you're right back. You need two. Yeah. So that's not easy.
Yeah, they had a big tight end transfer last season, but he didn't do much. So they're going to need somebody in the transfer portal, a guy that can come in and give some reps right off the rip.
And it needs to be a guy that can be an inline blocker, meaning he's actually attached to the line of scrimmage, going up against a 248-pound defensive end that's not a very friendly person.
They're going to need a tight end to seal the edge because they're going to run a lot of those end-around plays with Ryan O'Keefe, R.J. Harvey, Johnny Richardson,
absolutely,
Robinson. So they're going to need to seal the edge, and they got good tackles, but a tight end will definitely complement that.
I'm hoping that they can get somebody in for spring ball, but if you think back this past year, some of the guys they brought in didn't come in until after spring. Like Big Cat didn't play in spring.
They still got time. They still got time to bring in a JUCO guy, another transfer. They got time. And
But
the Orlando area is bringing in people anyway. So
it's not that hard to recruit to UCF. This just
nah, shouldn't be. Come on, man.
it's pretty straightforward. But
Yes, sir.
anyway, just wanted to talk a little bit of football with everybody today on the Daily Night regarding what I think, and I know Andrew thinks as well. Two deepest spots, man.
Yeah, man.
O-line is at least starters and all that. They got a few guys coming up. You don't get to see them as much, but I've heard some good things. And then running back is just insane.
They're going to have to stay healthy, and they're going to have to find a way to balance those reps with that talented depth. That's a talented depth right there.
You're correct. But if they can do that, the offense can be explosive. They may not run it more than or pass it more than 40% of the time. They may not have to.
You have to, yeah.
If you can just run over somebody and bludgeon them.
Yeah.
If
Bowser's healthy, man, and they find a way to centerpiece him, UCF can win the conference. But like you said, Cincinnati's going to lose a guys.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they react. Man, that's a lot. Man. Cincinnati really did lose a lot, and you lose your quarterback, which is your leader. That's tough.
It'll be a lot on Fickle to bounce back the next season after losing that many guys, having a historic season. So it'll be tough.
Well, all right, everybody. I appreciate it. We're going to wrap it up. Andrew, stay on here real quick, but everybody have a great day.